U.S. media reports say the Pakistan-born U.S. citizen accused of attempting to bomb New York's Times Square received training from the Pakistani Taliban. They say Faisal Shahzad received up to $15,000 in funding. Meanwhile, there's been 4 suspected drone attacks in Pakistan after the Times Square incident. But dealing with the Pakistan government is a difficult balancing act for the U.S., as Roger Wilkerson reports.
They are the most detailed comments yet from the U.S. government about the Pakistani Taliban's involvement in the failed Times Square bombing. The man charged, Faisal Shahzad, was originally called a lone wolf by U.S. authorities, but they have recently changed their tune as Shahzad continues to cooperate with investigators. The U.S. last week issued a stern warning to Pakistan's security establishment.
We want more, we expect more. We've made it very clear that if, heaven forbid, an attack like this that we can trace back to Pakistan were to have been successful, there would be very severe consequences.
The U.S. has already stepped up its covert drone campaign in Pakistan. This month alone, 3 suspected drone attacks have killed more than 24 people in North Waziristan, the country's porous border area with Afghanistan. And on Saturday, another strike in the Khyber region further north, the first of its kind in that area. Up to 15 people may have died. The U.S. drone strikes are deeply unpopular in Pakistan, and there is growing debate in Washington about whether the attacks create more fighters than they kill. The U.S. has been pressuring Pakistan to launch a campaign against the Taliban in North Waziristan, but the government there says it will operate on its own timetable, despite receiving billions of dollars in U.S. military funding. On Saturday, Pakistan arrested 2 men it says may have helped fund Shahzad's aborted attack. U.S. military officials say they will not use the Times Square case to increase pressure on the Pakistan military. But taking on the country's Taliban has assumed a new importance for the United States. Roger Wilkerson, Al Jazeera.
Joining me now live from Islamabad is Ishtiaq Ahmad. He is Associate Professor of International Relations at Quaid-e-Azam University there. Professor Ahmad, thanks for joining us. The United States policy on Pakistan looks like a very ambivalent policy. On the one hand, they appear to be putting a lot of pressure on Pakistan, yet at the same time saying that Pakistan is its closest ally. We heard there in that report Hillary Clinton, the Secretary of State, saying that there would be severe consequences if any one of these attacks in the United States is traced back to Pakistan, and there have been several drone attacks in the past week. What do you make of U.S. policy towards Pakistan?
You see, ever since President Obama took over, I think the relationship between Pakistan and the United States has become more pragmatic. Each side understands the other's realistic concerns and interests when it comes to fighting terrorism in the region. And that is why sometimes for public consumption, leaders in Pakistan issue statements critical of the drone attacks, and likewise whenever any incident in which United States seems to be affected from something originating from tribal areas, then you can see statements such as severe consequences for Pakistan if Pakistan doesn't cooperate and do more, just as Hillary Clinton made. But I think the broader context of this relationship in the past over 1 year is one of greater cooperation, and even in this incident of attempted terrorism at Times Square, in which a Pakistani-born American citizen, Faisal Shahzad, has been the prime accused, even after that I think there will be further closer cooperation, and the remaining areas of counter-terrorism which Pakistanis have not satisfied United States, namely the start of the north of Waziristan operation, I think should begin in a matter of weeks.
So do you see that the Pakistanis now will extend that operation? They haven't wanted to do that, as you say, but they will extend that operation into North Waziristan, because, you know, when Faisal Shahzad was arrested, we had 2 responses from the administration. On the one hand, they said he was operating on his own, he was a lone wolf. Then we heard no, he had been trained by the Pakistan Taliban. So Does this have the effect of putting pressure now on the Pakistanis to extend that counter-insurgency operation?
You see, unlike the Bush administration, if there is further pressure on Pakistan, it will be behind the scenes in the highest level interaction between the civilian and military leaders of the two countries. And this interaction has really intensified in recent months, and therefore behind the scenes, as the countries cooperate, as they did in the case of the Helmand operation in February this year, and perhaps next month when the counterinsurgency operation in Afghanistan extends to the Kandahar province, I think by then behind the scenes what we are seeing is a greater interaction meant to seek Pakistani cooperation at this time, which obviously means that Pakistan has to target the last remaining outpost of Al-Qaeda, Taliban, and a host of Punjabi Taliban groups in North Waziristan.
Okay, sir. Thank you very much for joining us.